Pistol, NBA Finals, almost here, not quite here yet. It's been quite the wait, but we at least have a matchup. The Boston Celtics are there, the Dallas Mavericks are there. If I said to you 6 months ago the Dallas Mavericks were making the NBA Finals, would you have even entertained the idea of it being a possibility?
Nah, no chance. I just didn't think there was enough depth there, well, firstly, but also I think we were still all trying to figure out whether the Kyrie Luka thing was going to be anything close to working out. Not a match made in heaven like obviously it has become, but anything close to being able to just look like there can be a dominant force on the court, and they've proven everybody wrong that they can be, and are one of the best offensive backcourts we've ever seen. But I'm just flat because we were so close to getting a predicted Western Conference matchup. I say so close. In the end, we weren't close, but
Yeah.
OKC and Minnesota, we were right there. Didn't eventuate.
We need to dig up the files. This was in literally October last year, where the question was pick a dark horse in the NBA, and your dark horse to win the West was the OKC Thunder, and my dark horse to win the West was the Minnesota Timberwolves. Both were paying upwards of $28 at the time.
Oh,
And we almost got a Western Conference Finals of OKC, Minnesota. Minnesota
So
did get there and
close.
fell short, but yeah, that was definitely one of our better tips.
I say so close too. We're a long way off in terms of the way those series played out, but
Yeah, I think so, yes and no, because the one thing like for Dallas, right, and I think this kind of really ties back to what I try and emphasize every year going into the playoffs, is their path to the finals kind of worked out perfectly for them in terms of getting the matchups that allowed them to play their best basketball and take away the opponent's best basketball, while keeping to their strengths at both ends of the floor. Because I don't know, I hate being that guy, Pistol. I hate being that guy, but I'm pretty confident in saying if Denver beat Minnesota, the Nuggets probably crushed the Mavs in the Western Conference Finals.
yeah, we spoke about this a little bit before as they were going on those games, that the matchups were just there, right? As you talked about, it's more of, I think you said it to me that the Timberwolves were designed to beat Denver,
Yeah.
and we saw that. Mind you, I still think if Porter Jr. shows up in 50% of the games, they probably get over the line. They just didn't have. If Jamal Murray didn't have a dingy calf, then he probably gets over the line.
Yes.
So there's so many ifs, ands, or buts. But then I thought Minnesota, I thought they were just going to be a matchup nightmare for Dallas. I thought if Cat did what he's supposed to do, and Gobert, or the conversation around Gobert and everything, I thought that there's just no way. Yes, the Kyrie and Luka can do their thing, but I mean, I don't want to. It's discrediting to say this, but they made PJ Washington look like an all-star.
I know.
And to be fair, it's been the trade of the last couple of years, the way that he's fit in, the perfect piece, and they've seen that what piece they need. Playing with confidence, their role players are great, and it's weird. Yeah, we're going to talk about it, but someone just asked me, "Oh, the Mavs will win this," and I was like, "I'm not sure if I give them a chance," but I've been saying that for a little bit, and you just can't write them off.
Yeah, I had the Mavs to beat the Clippers, I had the Mavs to beat the Thunder, and I had the Mavs to beat the Timberwolves. And again, despite all of that, at the start of the playoffs, I didn't have the Mavs winning the West. So it just goes down to which teams came through and how they matched up. Obviously, this is the one where I've flipped entirely, and you could call it bias, but I don't think that this is the matchup for them, in the same way that the other matchups were. Because, like, if we go back to first round series, and this is obviously one of the greatest ifs in basketball history. If Kawhi Leonard is fully healthy for the entire series,
They win.
is there a chance the Mavs were gone in the first round, and then like the whole Luka Kyrie experiment could potentially have been over?
Yeah, it's that full strength Clippers team, if they were healthy for long enough, I think does a little bit of damage because they've just got those weapons and
Yeah.
guys coming off the bench who could change the game and stuff. But that's also a part of winning a championship is you need a little bit of luck on your side, and we're seeing that. I was interesting. The Pacers. So speaking of luck and all the injuries, right? With Tyrese being hurt and the
Did you see his
Tyrese hero,
comment?
the Tyrese hero villain arc in
Yeah.
this playoff was something I didn't expect.
Yeah.
But I think it was a Rajon Rondo talking about Rick Carlisle. Did you see that recently?
No, I didn't.
So he came out saying, "Oh yeah, in a certain game where I wasn't going to play in the playoffs or something, whether it was the physios, doctors came and said, oh, Rick said that your hamstring hurts for tonight's game, so you're not going to play." And everyone's like, "Hang on, whoa, what's going on here and stuff?" And I'm like, this does happen in every professional sport, whether you can dress things up for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But then everyone's like, well, so Tyrese wasn't hurt, but I'm pretty sure we all could understand Tyrese did his hammy earlier in the season, and once he tweaked it again, he was in a bit of trouble.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, the Halliburton villain arc is wild. I did not like. I was rooting for this kid so much at the start of the season. Wanted him to be an all-star. Like, loved the in-season tournament run where he was like talking his shit as well. But man, come playoffs, like, I'm off him immensely.
Yeah.
Like, he's such a front runner.
I was just about to say I can't stand front runners, man. Like, you've got to be able to have the same energy. If that's you, you've got to be able to have the same energy if you're not doing well. And again, Ant's not a front runner because he still showed up to media, right? He just took all the responsibility and said, like, I've just got to be better or I'm tired. He didn't just shy away from it and then talk. He talks his trash whether he's down or up. So that's why I give him credit.
Exactly. And I think for me, the comment afterwards where after the Pacers got eliminated, Halliburton came out and said, one thing I've learned these playoffs is that the healthy team normally wins. And for him to come out and say that after they beat the Bucks without Giannis at all, and Dame missed half the series basically, and then they beat the Knicks, who were quite literally decimated to the point where their bodies were just hanging on by threads, and then got bounced and swept accordingly. Where sure he missed a couple of games, and that's obviously big for them and their team, but the nerve to come out and make that comment after your path to making the Eastern Conference Finals was hinged on other teams being injured is just wild to me.
It's even worse to think. So basically, if he's there for the last two games, that Indiana are going to win, and I never saw them beating Boston in anything. Maybe one game. I mean, granted, they were the stats that they knew they were 90% probability to win 3 of the games and fail, but Boston were going to get it done no matter how many games it took.
Yeah. Before we jump back to the West and the Mavs specifically, looking at Boston's path, which has just been a cakewalk, they haven't really been challenged. What's your perspective on that? Is it you get to the finals and you got a whole bunch of healthy bodies that haven't had to log as many minutes and can play as close to their peak as possible? Or are you the flip side of they needed to be battle tested a little bit more than they potentially were against teams probably of the caliber of Dallas?
They needed to have been battle tested, but I also needed to have more recent games with Porzingis, because we've said this: if he's only plays half the series against Dallas, it changes everything. But him coming back in, how well Derek White's played, even Drew Holiday's been good offensively. They have to shift this entire mentality, and the roles have to change now. And Jaylen Brown's the one I talked to you about this at the start of the season. Is Jaylen Brown now, if Porzingis is healthy, okay to potentially be the third, fourth option again? After how he's played pretty well, is he okay to take that back seat at times? I'm not so sure, and that could be the end if they don't get this done after how easy this run has been. Like, are we talking like one of the all-time great choke of the championships?
Yeah.
We have to be, right?
On a number of reasons, like not just the path and the ease of which that they've done it, but like if you just look at this team statistically and in every sort of category, they're historically good. Like their net average margin of victory in the regular season was top 5 in NBA history. Their net rating average in the playoffs is top 5 in NBA Finals history. Like they are they are putting up remarkable numbers. And regardless of what you want to say about the competition, like they're literally ranking alongside the 2017 Warriors, the 96 Bulls, the 71 Lakers. Like that's kind of the company that they're in from a statistical category. That I think if they don't go and get it done now, yeah, it's a historical choke. Absolutely.
And you can't as you said, you can't discredit them. They can only play who's in front of them, right? And the East is just very weak, and and they've got through it the way they should.
Yeah.
But now it is like, okay, you've done what you're supposed to do. Now is no excuse. Like you've just got to go and get it done.
Yeah, I like as a fan, I think the frustrating thing as a fan, right? When talking about the Celtics with people who are very opinionated on them not being it, is okay. So it started off with they need to basically sweep every single team on the way to the East, on the way to the NBA Finals in order for them to
They pretty much did.
Exactly, they pretty much did. They dropped 2 games. They've won 7 straight, by the way, going into game 1. They won 7 straight.
Which I don't think is good for them.
I know, I get that too. And then it became a case of, oh, but you're not winning by margin, even though they have an average win margin of 11.5 points, like double digits. And then it became a case of, yeah, but you're not winning the way we want you to win because Jason Tatum's not going off and Jaylen Brown's going off instead. And there's always something that undermines them. And I just feel like we're at a point where we're nitpicking a little bit too much as opposed to saying, this team's really, really freaking good. They've taken care of it in every which way. They've won clutch games when it comes down to past arguments of this team just can't execute in the clutch. Like they were suffocating in the final 5 minutes of games defensively. It was honestly some of the best defense I've seen in recent times. So they kind of have ticked every single box along the way, and we keep trying to find new reasons why they probably won't get it done. And I don't understand why people are trying to make the case that the Mavs should be favorites, because that to me is wild. No, and I think that the Celtics...
I think people are trying to look for a reason because like what the Mavs have been through, the series they've had, and the way that they've beat each other up. I mean, we talk about the West in general. Ant was cooked in the Western Conference Finals, and you could see that. Whereas Boston haven't had to have those challenges whatsoever. It was kind of, you're always going to be in the finals. How fresh is the team you're going to play in the finals? And that's all that matters. So really, and it's hard to really even say it, but they've got 4 games to win now out of 7 to win the finals. And we probably would have said that back at the start of the season, right? They've got to win. They've got to win 4 games. They're going to get there. It's just how do they go about winning those?
Yeah, and I think people are always sort of married to past opinions, right? And I think that's one thing that exists in every sport. And the past opinion that, you know, this team is, they choke, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum doesn't work. These opinions are going to stick until basically it changes in its entirely, right? Because we can have this...
going to stick until like right. If they win this year, there's still going to be that large narrative of, well, so they should have, like they had the easiest run.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. You'll wash some of it away. It's kind of like you can look back at everything because remember before LeBron won his first ring, after they lost that final to Dallas, everyone was like, this guy's just never going to get over the hump. He's not clutch. He can't perform in big situations. They went into that following final where they won the championship against OKC. And I don't think many people remember this. OKC were market favorites. Do you know how crazy that is in hindsight?
Yeah.
In hindsight, this young team that made their first NBA final was favorite against one of the greatest Miami teams of modern NBA history. But that's kind of the power of narratives and like I said, marrying yourself to past opinions where obviously they got the job done, and then from then on they became this, you know, dynasty of sorts where everyone was expecting them to win. And looking back at it, it's ridiculous that we thought that LeBron might potentially never win a ring. Like now he's considered one of the greatest of all time. And you can do that on like a microcosm as well, where you look at individual players where Paul George is a perfect example. Like Pandemic P, he just was the worst playoff performer in history. And then one season it just clicked for him and he figured it out. And now he's elite in the playoffs. Like he was arguably better than Luka in the first round series. You know, he just didn't have the support network to get him over the line with Kawhi out. So these narratives are always going to exist. And I think the whole Jason Tatum isn't it and the Jaylen Jason pairing can't work is going to exist until they win a ring. And then I
Yep.
think if they get it done this time around, I think that narrative is gone, and all of a sudden people start treating Jason Tatum like a top 5 player in the league, almost regardless of whether he wins Finals MVP or not.
Yeah, it's that's another thing to watch completely too, right? Because I spoke to you before that game. I was like, I'm having a little something on Jaylen Brown here to
Yeah.
win, and Tatum balled out, but it really could have gone either way if you're
That
looking
one
at
was a
overall.
coin flip. Did you see the votes as well? It was literally one vote.
Was it?
It was
Yeah,
five
it
five
made
to
sense.
four for JB. Yeah.
And if Brown and Tatum are like in the back of their minds don't care about that, we all know that's not true, right? So that's going to be another thing to watch when it comes to the Finals MVP and how it goes. But I expect Boston to get it done. As again, I went to college in New York, and I'm in New York, everything. So if they don't, I'm going to really enjoy this, and because obviously you're a Boston man as well.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I look forward to it. But looking at let's look at game one specifically. Porzingis 95% in is what I've been told.
Mm.
I trust the person that has told me this immensely. They said that he's 100% go in full practice at the moment. He would have been good for game 4 in Indiana if they had obviously needed to, but they preferred
Right.
to sit him back. But him being in, I think, is going to change the market pretty big. If you
Yep.
like Dallas, I would not touch them until right at tip-off after lineups are announced. And that's not just game 1, I think series as well, because obviously the domino effect once the market kind of comes into play there.
Yeah, you'd probably have a little bit before, but then also wait till after game 1 too.
Yeah. So
Right.
do you think game 1 is as straightforward as... Because aside from the Minnesota series, like Dallas has almost always lost game 1 with Luka. Like that's just been... It's almost like LeBron, when he was in Cleveland, they would always lose game 1. It was the feel-out game. They weren't sort of playing their best. I actually think this is going to potentially be a blowout for Boston. And I don't think that it's going to be a reflection of how the rest of the series goes. But I actually think Boston comes out, has one of those nights where they shoot 42% from deep on decent volume and potentially wins this by like 15, 16 points.
I think more so because of the fact we thought that was going to be in Indiana, right? The first game in Indiana, and it wasn't. Went to OT,
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown. So I think that all of those reasons, I think they just absolutely show up and get it done. And then again, after that, I'll probably start to have a little something on Dallas because I'm just like, this is not how the series is going to go. It's a chess match.
Yeah. I think the line's a bit favorable at 6.5. I think it should be closer to 8 in Boston anyway. My question to you though, with this series when it goes back to Dallas, Boston is 6-0 on the road in the playoffs. The best, obviously, streak so far in NBA history. If they hold home court and it's 2-0, what chance do you give Dallas of making this 2-2 and turning it into a best of 3?
No, I think I think they'd show up at home. The one to watch is I think Kyrie's going to ball out in Boston. He's one of those guys that he just loves those kind of opportunities. And again, the maturity over the last few years has been insane, not just as a basketball player, but the way he talks and the way he handles himself. But I also think that means that the team's going to not so much protect him, but help him to kind of come out and have a good game in one of the first 2 of Boston and then come home and do it in front of his fans. I just don't see this going 7 though. I think this is going to go 6. I just don't know if it's going to have the cap. And I do think that if Boston blow them out in the first game, I think it'll go 2-2. But if it's a tight game, Dallas is going to be really tired by game 3.
Yeah, that's a definite factor. Like Luka's been hobbling all playoffs.
That's
and I know. Like a lot of it is him playing possum. I don't buy it in its entirety, but I do think some of the matchups he's had to face on the way to the finals are going to start to catch up in terms of the physicality and bodies he's had to have put on him. Like he had Terrence Mann first round, who I actually thought did a really good job on him for the most part. He's got the size and physicality to stay with him, and he held him to like the worst shooting he's had of the playoffs over a full series. He then had to fight through Lou Dort for an entire series, and then he had to fight through a combination of McDaniels and Edwards, And now he's probably going to have another combination, I think, where they're just going to keep throwing fresh bodies at him. Whether it's Drew, whether it's Jaylen Brown, whether it's Tatum who sees him for some possessions just because of the length and size. I think all of that like you said, come game 3-4, if the series is already 3-1 after game 4, like it's a wrap in game 5.
Yeah.
I don't see
100%.
how they physically can get over the hump and recover from that.
I'm with you.
So I'm with you in saying it's actually my favorite bet of the NBA Finals. Boston Celtics minus 1.5 games, $2.
Yeah. Is that what it is? That's it though. Sheesh.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. I think that's I think they're going to be too strong in the depth. Defense shows up normally more than offense in big moments, and that's what Drew and Derek White can do. So unless PJ Washington has multiple games where he hits 5+ threes, which is doable, but I'm not sure. I think Boston are going to be champions. It's going to pay me to say, but you'll be happy, so it's okay.
I'll be. Look at this, Pistol. Like I haven't stopped wearing Boston Celtics gear for about.
Don't go early.
A week and a half.
Don't go early.
I have to go early. I'm all in at this point. I have to go early. Like if not now, when?
Yeah, true. Oh.
Like I'm ready to get. I think I'm mentally ready to just get crushed as well. Like I don't think there's any recovering if we don't win this one.
Yeah, I don't think you are. I think you're just so adamant, like me too, than a lot of people that there's just no. I don't see an avenue where they lose this. So
yeah,
I don't think you're as mentally prepared as you need to be because it's Boston in the end. But let's see what happens.
Yeah, there's going to be. I think the one thing I can guarantee is there's going to be 2 games where in the final 3 minutes is going to be a 1-possession game, and in at least one of those games, Boston would have been up by double digits and somehow allowed them to just claw back into it because that's just exactly how their games play out.
I think is there a daily dabble or something that it was for a buzzer beater as time expires to win there's some odds up for one in one of the game in just one game in the series. I'm like, this game is full of clutch performers. I was like, why would you not have a little throw at that?
That's sick. That's a good market for sure. Worth checking out. All right, and before we sign off, who's your Finals MVP?
Hard to go past Tatum just because Jaylen Brown won. But if he stays healthy, I think I might say Porzingis though. They don't have a matchup for him.
Yeah, that's the X factor, right? Like that.
His ability to step out and shoot the 3. But the other one, if I had to give 3, if he stays healthy, he'll be up there. But Derek White's a dark horse too.
Derek White's a massive dark horse. Dark horse. Because you've seen what he can do offensively, and he's going to get Kyrie because they have to throw their better defenders elsewhere. So
I think that Tatum's too short to touch for my liking.
Yeah.
But I would, if Porzingis, because of the health or whatever, defense and what Derek White has shown, a couple of 20-point games like that, I'd have a little splash at that.
Yeah, he has a 30-point game in him this series, I think, as well.
Yeah, 100%.
For sure. So, yeah, I agree. I would still say Tatum, but I can't justify the price. Same thing. Because I think this is going to be a monster series for him rebounding the basketball. He averaged 30 and 10 against Indiana. He's going to go very close to that again this series. Especially being aggressive on the glass. And if that's the case, if he averages close to 30 and 10 and they win, then I don't think anyone can win it. But yeah, Porzingis is the X factor in this series. Being able to 5 out the floor, I think that's how Dallas kind of comes undone a little bit. I don't think if he's on the floor, I don't think you can have Derek Lively on the floor because he's going to have to leave the paint.
That's what I'm saying. That's so I don't think that would really hurt the Mavs. It's going to be a chess game, and maybe that's where it does come into a Kleber type who can space the floor on the other end too, and it'd be very fascinating to see. Yeah,
that's not a bad shout at all. All right, well, that is our NBA Finals preview prior to Game 1, but I'm pretty sure we're going to jump on throughout the series as well, especially if we have a series. If we have a series, 100%. It'll make for good viewing. But we will leave you guys with that, and we will be back to check in. Hopefully let's check in after Game 3.
All right, that works. Hopefully you're a bit smiling then.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Otherwise, we might not check back in at all.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.